sports fans, Coach Nick here, and welcome to BBallBreakdown. I know we haven't been churning out a lot of content recently, but that's about to change. However, you might have missed our last week's Triangle Offense episode where I show you just how many teams in the league use triangle action. It's a fantastic video and you may not have gotten notified, so definitely check it out with the link on the screen or in the description below because it's really a good piece that we've done. However, this video about Russell Westbrook's finishing at the rim could very well be the best thing I've done all year because when I interact with people on Twitter, a lot of times Russell Westbrook fans are extremely shocked when I inform them that his field goal percentage at the rim is about average for a guard in the league, and they refuse to believe it. Well, the math don't lie, and I'm here to show you in a very non-hater way exactly what the issues are and how he could fix them. So strap yourselves in for a really great analysis on finishing at the rim that deals with footwork and hand and timing and balance and explosion and control, all the things that make for a really good point guard. There are few players in the league that draw as much attention to themselves as Russell Westbrook. From his locker room answers,
good job execution,
to his incredible highlights from all over the court and all over his opponents, Russ has no doubt earned his position as a fan favorite. That said, there have always been rumblings about some of his issues. He takes too many shots, he's out of control, and he doesn't make great decisions from the point guard position. One thing that always surprises people, however, is when I tell them that Russ is pretty average when it comes to finishing shots at the rim. The fact is, Westbrook has never been among the league leaders among guards in synergies around the basket category. While his breathtaking athletic ability gives us plenty of highlights, those shots only count for 2 points. And most of those shots are balanced out by wild forays to the rim that don't get his team anything but him on the ground, not in good position to get back on defense to stop the ensuing fast break. Let's examine last year's stats to see what is truly going on out on the court. In the around the basket category among guards, Russ had his highest finish in 4 seasons, but there were still 17 players who shot better than him. These numbers are a little bit murky because they include cuts to the hoop and putbacks. In terms of drives to the hoop, the NBA stats tell us he went to the hole just over 10 times a game, ranking him 6th in that category. His field goal percentage on drives was 50.1%, ranking him 17th among guards who played at least 60 games. Now it's time to get to the nitty-gritty, his footwork, to explain what exactly is happening and why he struggles to make more of his shots. The best way to break this down is to separate his footwork into 4 basic categories. When he jumps off of his left foot, his right foot, and then off 2 feet in rhythm, either with a left-right or a right-left jump. I charted every single one of his drives to the basket last year, including which direction he drove, which hand he finished with, and whether those shots were put back by teammates. Overall, he averaged 1 point per possession on his drives, and was relatively consistent driving to the left, right, and down the middle. Jumping off his left foot was the most common way Westbrook elevated for his shots, but he was pretty even with his use of hand. When he used the traditional right-hand finish, he was right at his overall efficiency, and that makes sense. But things broke down quickly when he drove left, jumped off his left foot, and shot with his left hand. Quite simply, it's an awkward shot for anyone, and when you take off from outside the lane or from the dotted line routinely, you're making it awfully hard on yourself to be successful. To shoot the off-footed layup, there tends to be a double pump to get enough strength to get the ball to the rim against your body movement. And if the defense is there to contest, it makes some of these shots virtually impossible. The next finish Russ uses the most is the 2-foot in rhythm jump with the right foot planting, then the left foot rising with tremendous force to the hoop. This is a very explosive move and usually allows for more balance when you plant your feet properly. The best way to finish with this footwork is to use the left hand as you turn sideways to avoid the defense and maintain good balance in the air. And we can see that Russ doesn't have much drop off when he shoots with his left. However, his percentage plummets when he tries to use his right hand going off a right-left jump. This requires a lot of torque in the upper body in midair to get the right hand towards the rim. If there's a defender there, it's very easy for them to key in on this shot and contest it well. He also tends to get in the air, drifting to his left, then try and float the ball in from behind with the right hand, an even more difficult shot and one that the defense can also swat away more easily. His other issue is that when he plants that left foot down, it's often too close to his right, allowing his upper body to drift laterally without enough control. When he gets a wider stance, he can absorb some of his energy to the hoop so he's not throttling at an untenable angle in the air against long and athletic big men defenders. His numbers off his right foot and the left-right combo are better than his overall numbers. And this makes sense since he tends to use his right hand finish a lot more often. Even when it's an off-foot layup, it's natural that he'd be better shooting with his dominant hand. But when you add them both together, that number is still less than the total amount of right-left finishes and way below his left foot finishes. Another thing that jumped out at me while going through hundreds of clips was how out of control he can be. Time after time, game after game, he would get caught up in wanting to go too fast, too high, too quick, and simply not have enough control and balance to successfully make these shots. Without question, Russ is among the very best athletes in the game today, but it's also without question that he's one of the worst at knowing how to control it properly. It's one of the main reasons that I have an issue with his overall game, because a coach's priority should always be to help his players achieve better balance and learn to be quick, but don't hurry. I'm used to seeing these types of plays in very young, inexperienced players who have just developed their athletic ability. Yet Russ is still attempting these plays going into his 9th year in the NBA. It's not hate, sports fans, it's more of a frustration and something that I believe could be remedied. Another factor that contributes to his average ranking around the rim is his shot selection. I believe if he would be more willing to hit the wide open man on drives like these, he would reduce a significant amount of his misses. Of course, the argument is, why should he pass to a wide open Andre Robertson in the corner when he can attempt a shot from 7 feet away with a defender nearby? Well, aside from it being the right play in terms of #basketball, here's an interesting concept to ponder. Is Andre Robertson a terrible shooter? Or has Russ not put enough trust in him to consistently pass to him in rhythm, giving him the confidence he so desperately needs to become a better shooter? I think we all know that feeling when a point guard drives and kicks and yells "bucket" before you even release the ball, right? It's the kind of positive energy that breeds confidence across the whole team, and I believe will ultimately pay dividends. That said, you can clearly see many of his wide open teammates are actually good shooters that should be getting the ball. The last piece of this puzzle is with Russ initiating contact in the air. He doesn't get a ton of these calls, and I believe it's precisely for that reason. The referees tend to give verticality to the defender, so flying into them at full speed in midair doesn't yield the same number of foul calls as someone like James Harden, who gets the majority of his contact on the ground as he's beginning the shot. Once Russ is stuck in the air like this, it appears the refs aren't willing to bail him out, and they lead to even more wild shots instead of potential passes to wide open teammates. We also can't ignore the other benefits to driving the basket to the hoop. The analytics guys will always chime in and say, what about free throws and putbacks? Without question, drawing shooting fouls is a big benefit from Westbrook's drives. He averages almost 3 free throws a game on drives, ranking him 4th in the league among guards. That does move the needle slightly, but not enough to get him into the elite category of finishers. And if you want to factor in how many turnovers he commits on his drives, one look at his ranking paints a not so pretty picture of a guy who flies at the rim out of control unable to make the best decisions because he's intent on forcing the issue all too often. And I broke out how many putbacks or Kobe assists he was getting out of his drives. Of the 145 total drives where Russ missed, 26 of them were put back by teammates, for a total of 17.9% of those. I wanted to compare that to another player in a similar situation. And since the Thunder led the league in offensive rebounding, it would be preferable to find a guard who drives a lot on another team that grabs a lot of offensive rebounds. Well, it just so happens that the Detroit Pistons are second in the league in offensive rebounds. And they also happen to have a guard that drives almost the exact same amount as Russ. In a poetic turn of events, ex-teammate Reggie Jackson missed shots on 163 of his drives, with 32 of them being grabbed and put back in the basket. That's 19.6% of his drives, almost 2 points higher than Russ's drives. So I'm willing to say that the Thunder simply did not benefit more from the sheer amount of putbacks off of Russ's drives and misses at the rim. Certainly not enough to justify his inefficiency. So there you have it, sports fans. This is not a hate letter to Russell Westbrook fans or to Russ himself. This is straight analysis of a common misperception about his game. I hope that this goes a long way to explaining why people feel I'm so hard on him. Considering he's a perennial all-star and always in the discussion as a top player in the league, consider these facts before forming your opinion. And then we can get down to the debate about whether Russell Westbrook is truly a superstar.